There's a kid in my hometown that went missing, but no one remembers him. By KB Hurst. It was a crisp late November day, and early Christmas shoppers were all out and about fighting over parking spaces at the local town center outlet mall. I was at the grocery store with my mom the day the missing posters appeared on every corner in our little Midwestern town. An immediate panic sent shock, paranoia, and fear in all the mothers of Everett, the city where everyone knew everyone. Sammy, 10 years old, with brown hair and blue eyes, was last seen in Everett on his way to school. He wore a blue and white striped t-shirt and had a red book bag. There was a month-long search for Sammy, some of the parents even claiming they had seen a strange vehicle the day that he went missing. Parents became extra watchful and grew more paranoid, especially when another child was almost abducted on her way to school. At least, that was the rumor. The truth was that no one could prove that the supposed almost kidnapping even happened. But what everyone started to realize was that no one in the town was related to Sammy or even knew his parents. Was Sammy new here? Had his family just moved in? There were no records that he was even registered in the only elementary school in the tiny town. Yet, the missing posters went out to law enforcement, and even the FBI had Sammy listed in the database of missing and exploited children. One afternoon, the local police chief received an anonymous email from someone claiming to know the whereabouts of Sammy. He was provided coordinates that led them to an old run-down warehouse at the end of town. I remember hearing about it from my father, who was good friends with our local police chief. When the police arrived at the old warehouse, entering from a back door, guns were drawn, of course, expecting to find someone there. Yet, the only thing they found was an old laptop with a screen image of Sammy. It was odd, and after further investigating, it led nowhere. Computer forensic analysts found nothing on the laptop that would lead to even an arrest or an inquisition or any suspects. So, the search for little Sammy went cold. Several years passed, and I was majoring in journalism in college. As a project for my class, we had to write about something odd that had happened in our local town. We had to complete the project by the end of the week, and I set to work trying to think of something odd or even interesting about the small town of Everett. Then I remembered the cold case of Sammy, that kid who had gone missing. I did some quick research online to see if anyone ever found anything, since it hadn't been mentioned about in years. Turns out, that was because the strange case of little Sammy went cold. The other odd thing was how many people claimed to have never seen or met Sammy. He had appeared out of nowhere on those missing posters all over town. Initially, there were so-called witnesses interviewed on the local news that had seen Sammy the morning he disappeared, claiming to have seen black cars in the area that morning. When they were interviewed by law enforcement, they seemed to have realized the witnesses just wanted their 15 minutes of fame. Our town of Everett went nearly bankrupt trying to find Sammy. It caused terrible rifts between families, and to this day they don't even speak. People made wild accusations against one another, and the neighbors accused their neighbors of knowing more than they said. They stopped respecting the police, thinking they weren't doing enough to help find the missing little boy. Eventually it died down, but things were never really the same. Recently, I pulled up Sammy's missing page on the internet that had been created by our small town. There was his fresh face with little freckles and a missing front tooth. I clicked on the link to the other pages similar to the one our police created for Sammy. When I did, I noticed something strange. There were other boys with different names, Only they all had Sammy's face. I thought I was going crazy for a moment until I went further, still down the rabbit hole. One of the links led me to a page on artificial intelligence. Computers were now able to create faces of people that did not exist. One of the faces was, in fact, that of Sammy. I realize this is a long shot, even saying this on a public forum such as this, but I'm convinced that some sort of artificial intelligence is behind the so-called missing posters popping up all over towns like mine. In each city, it costs them thousands of dollars in manpower to find the missing child. In the other cities, there were riots over the police not doing enough to locate the so-called missing child. In 2 cases, a murder was involved. One because a parent at one of the elementary schools accused another of harming the child that had disappeared. Another murder was of a man whose neighbor swore he had seen kidnap the child that had disappeared, never to be found. In fact, another town in New Jersey was now looking for a little boy named Isaac. And I'm sure you've guessed it by now. It's the same photo of Sammy.